gon' bow, and tongue will confess.
Please forgive my ignorance. Never wanted this. Should have been oblivious and kept my innocence. Father, we don't know. We don't know what we doing. Father, we don't know. We don't know what we doing. Lord, please forgive my ignorance. Never wanted this. Should have been oblivious and kept my innocence. Father, we don't know. We don't know what we doing. Father, we don't know. We don't know what we doing. Lord, we don't know what it is we do. This misery looks so perfect and it fits you too. We pass around the lie, handing out our grief. All the death that we speak, this shit all out for free. And to the souls we load, the hurts on overload, projecting all our shorts and losses mixed with blames and woes. The worst part we don't see, we reject community. There is nothing in this worldly way that's meant for you and me. Look, it's time to be free, to wake up from sleep, saying we won't, but we wrapped up in sheets. The father been calling his children for years. Too many tears from wrestling weeds, and we hurt from a bit of that. But we got a good gift like a Venadab. Enemy flee from the white flag. Now better be free from the lie trap. But some of us just don't know, thinking we gotta prove self-promo, getting caught up in our quid pro quo, only to find we vested a bozo. But no risk, bro, the Holy Ghost, Counselor and Holy Host, brings us to the highest places when we sit in the low of lows and no one knows. Please forgive my ignorance. Never wanted this. Should have been oblivious and kept my innocence. Father, we don't know. We don't know what we doing. Father, we don't know. We don't know what we doing. Lord, please forgive my ignorance. Never wanted this. Should have been oblivious and kept my innocence. Father, we don't know. We don't know what we doing. Father, we don't know. We don't know what we doing. Lord.
Man, another good day. Another 2 pennies in the basket, right? How you guys today been, man? I hope it was awesome. Hope it was blessed. Hope it was everything that God intended it to be for you. And even in the hard stuff, even in the stuff that we might not understand, man, like God's glory is going to show. And that's real. Man, again, y'all know the situation that's going on with me with the new job and the fact that, I don't know, man, just seeing that thing on my calendar that I had the interview tomorrow. Like, I already knew it was there, but, man, it still trips me out. Like, no lie, it still trips me out. It still messes with me that God's got me in this position, man, and it's the interviews with a whole bunch of people that I don't know, and my boss, and just see what God's got in store, man. Like, I'm not expecting anything. Like, I just feel honored the fact that I got an interview. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what's in God's plan. One thing that I can guarantee you, even if they tell me like, well, we just interviewed you to interview you, but you don't meet the qualification, I am not going to trip, right? I'm going to literally be like, well, praise God. At least I got to get in front of y'all and y'all know what I'm about. Y'all know what I want to do. You know where I'm at, right? So, man, praise God in all things, right? And I really hope and pray that everybody has been able to have that opportunity today with the Father to watch him work and do what he does. I even had a very wild case that I have that really doesn't want to engage with anybody, really doesn't want to do what needs to be done. And I had an appointment with them without the person that was supposed to be there to mediate everything and moderate everything. And it went well, right? It went really well. Kids are super articulate, really awesome. The young one was like, I'm my own superhero because I want to make sure that everybody's safe. It was an awesome time. Usually these folk don't even want to talk, right? And they talked a lot today, and it was good, man. Like, today was a good one. I got somebody in my discipleship group, hoping for one more that it wouldn't feel right unless I had them in the group. I got one of them in there. Hopefully the other one could come. These brothers literally light my soul, man. Like, anybody will tell you, and you know if you follow this feed, that I can have a heavy hand when I'm teaching, right? And these brothers brought a lighthearted humor to the teachings before, and man, it graced my soul to reach out to the one, and the one was like, yep, for real. And then I reached out to the other one, and I haven't received a response yet, but it's okay, man. It's been like 5 years, you know what I mean, since I've had a group, and I really wanted these brothers back. So I figured today, I was talking to my wife, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just reach out, see what happens. And the one responded, waiting on the response from the other. So again, man, like, I really hope that you guys are experiencing God's hand, or the benefits of staying in the palm of God's hand in your life regularly. I can't express it enough. Like, just stay with the Father. Just stay up close to Him, regardless of what things look like, man. It will always turn out good. It will always turn out beautiful, as long as you're walking with God and you're standing in the palm of His hand. Even if things look like it's going to be terrible, I promise you it will work out for His glory and for your benefit. You may not see it right up front. I actually had a very extensive conversation with somebody today that, you know, sometimes you don't see it right up front. Sometimes it may seem like an L, but it's not. When God is doing something, man, even something that seems like an L, when you fast forward a little bit, get a little bit further, you cross the threshold into the purpose of that thing, you're going to be like, wow, right? You'll be like, man, okay, now let me trust and believe some more. Case in point for me, a long time ago, was losing my job. Like, it was literally told by God, you're going to lose your job. And I was like, man, there's no way. God wouldn't tell me that, but I lost my job. But my life hasn't been the same since. Every time I've been obedient to God when it seemed impossible, or when He was literally telling me something that I didn't want to hear, but I'd still walk in obedience to Him, and the thing happened, and I'd be like, yo, I don't know what to do anymore. And, well, you follow me. That's all you do. Okay, cool. It's always been more grace than I could ever imagine. And I really hope that people start to latch onto that. It is not all butterfly kisses and fairy tale dreams. There is some hard stuff that we have to face when we walk with God. And the craziest part about it is that the hard stuff, it was low-key our fault. But we don't want to admit it. We don't want to face it. We want to blame everybody else. But when you come to that place, when you deny yourself and you really walk with God, you really come into the realization of the many things that you've done on your own strength, the many things that you've done that have actually that's kind of stunted your growth or messed up your path and your walk. And a lot of that has to get cleared up, man. It's a natural consequence, right? We was just talking about that yesterday in the Proverb. Natural consequences happen. And sometimes we just have to knuckle down. We have to bite the bullet, and we have to walk with everything we got. And we got to remain firmly planted in the palm of God's hand in order to see it through. Some people will do it, and some people will fall away. And I pray that you choose to just do it. It's going to hurt. There's going to be some stuff that gets uprooted out of the soul of your heart, that's the soil of your heart, that's going to hurt. It's going to hurt. I'm not going to lie to you. It's going to hurt bad. But after God heals you and after that thing is removed, you will understand how much it was actually hindering you, right? The self-denial walk is huge, and that's going to be the number one theme right now of the Bible study that I'll be doing, is self-denial. All the places to deny self. And it sounds like it's something small. It sounds like it's something quick. It's not. I've been on the self-denial walk for 8 years now and still learning stuff about it, right? There is some stuff that we don't even think about in self-denial that is a major part of self-denial. So one of them is answered prayer, right? Like, sometimes we think that God didn't answer a prayer, but He did. But it's because we can't get outside of ourselves to see what God was doing. And we tend to think that God went silent. No, it just doesn't look the way that we want it to. That's one of the hugest parts of self-denial, is understanding that God does it His way. He's not a genie. We don't rub a lamp and He does it exactly the way that we see. We ask Him for something and He does it the way that He is going to do it. Give me more patience. The most annoying person in the world appears next to you. Let me manage my finances better. All of a sudden the bill drops and you literally have to put everything into the right places in order to pay that bill. Like, it never looks the way that we think it will. And a lot of that is because of our selfishness, right? When you get into this place of self-denial, you start to see that God does things and it's not for a temporary fix. It's for a lifetime. It is something that will remain with you. It is a step-by-step process that gets engraved in your character, and you walk in that excellence the rest of your life. And that's what these proverbs are for, right? Find the proverb. I just assigned to my guys in my discipleship group that they have to find their proverb of the day, the one that screamed to them as much as it did, the one that they're like, yo, I need to do that in my life, and they are to explain why, right? And I'm not going to give demerits or whatever for anybody that's not doing it, but it's about growth. It's about discipleship. It's about moving forward. So I'm hoping that the guys really latch onto that and they do what they do. Find that one proverb and explain why it hit them in that light. And it's not going to be about this broadcast. It's about their personal walk with God, right? So with all that being said, man, let's get into this proverb and let's see what God's got for us today in Proverb 13, man. Let's see what the Father's got for us. A son who heeds his father's discipline is wise, but a scoffer doesn't listen to rebuke. Again, it doesn't look the way that we think it's going to all the time. Once we're aligned with God, it looks the way that we think it's going to almost every time. But until we get to that place where we can back away from it, it's not going to look the way that we think it will. See, a son who heeds his father's discipline, a lot of the stuff that we wind up coming across is discipline, y'all. And what is discipline? It's discipleship. Discipleship, discipline. You see what I'm saying? There is a discipline to discipleship. And unfortunately, sometimes we have to be disciplined because of the decisions we made, because it doesn't fall under sonship. It falls under something else. So when we mess up, we do some things, God is going to discipline us. Period. Doesn't mean that he hates us. Doesn't mean that he wants us to have bad. Is that he's trying to correct our behavior, right? So there is a discipline that happens. It's a part of discipleship. It's a part of sonship. Anybody that has kids knows that discipline is a big part of raising kids. Because if you don't discipline your kids, they run amok, they do what they do, they hurt themselves all the time, they don't get things figured out, and then a lot of the time they'll turn around and blame you when they're adults because you never taught them the right way, right? So discipline is a huge part. So always heed discipline. Always understand it's not to hurt us. It's to help us. It's to bring us to better places. A scoffer doesn't like to listen to rebuke because they think they got everything figured out. Doesn't matter how many times they bump their head. Doesn't matter how many times they drop the ball. Doesn't matter how many times they were married. Doesn't matter how many times they relapsed. Doesn't matter how many jobs they've gotten. Doesn't matter anything. They will always scoff and say, I don't need that, when it's painfully apparent they do. Don't be a scoffer. Take discipline, understand it, walk in it, and get that it's not because God doesn't like you. It's because God loves you and he wants to make sure that you're staying on the right path to experience the many graces that he has on that path. A good man enjoys good as a result of what he says, but the essence of the treacherous is violence. It is. It is. The treacherous, the ones that are manipulating people, the narcissistic people that try to manipulate a scenario, manipulate a situation into their favor. It is violence. See, and one of the things that we have to realize, y'all, violence isn't always fists. You know what I'm saying? Violence doesn't always involve this. Sometimes words can be violent, right? Sometimes words can be harsh. Sometimes words can put somebody in a place to have them like, dang, man, like what in the world? Like, the power of life and death is in the tongue. So obviously we need to be careful of how we speak. Like if it's discord, if it's division, if it's get away from this, if it's get away, like we got to be careful with that. Like there is a time to let somebody know like, hey, you better be paying attention. But there is a complete different meaning behind it when it's malicious and you're trying to remove somebody out of a picture. When it's malicious against the one person, you're telling somebody something else. That's violence. It's not okay. Right? We need to learn the difference. We need to learn how to be able to communicate things the proper way, because like this says, a good man enjoys good. A good man enjoys good as a result of what he says. So when you say things, when they're full, when they're really what you mean, when you're not just saying it to shut somebody up, right? Like when you're being sincere in what you're saying, you will enjoy the goodness of what you said. He who guards his mouth preserves his life, but one who talks too much comes to ruin. Straight up. Straight up. The lazy person wants but doesn't have. The diligent get their desires filled. Now, you may not get it right away, but you have to be diligent. You don't get diligence just by sitting and doing something once. You get diligence from time and time and time again. When you work in a company, right, you're not necessarily going to climb the ranks very fast and very quickly. You know what I mean? You got to put in the diligent work, and then in the diligent work, the excellent work, when you're doing it the right way, then people take notice, then you start moving forward. Y'all, like, even in my scenario that I've got right now, where it seems like I'm moving forward in a place that I'm not supposed to be, there was 5 years prior of doing the exact same thing, just with another company, right? It didn't bring anything. But the new place that I'm in, they want to ensure that I'm happy. They want to ensure that I stay. They want to ensure that I give them the work and the quality work that I was giving the other place. But these guys have many more benefits. Again, like, it takes diligence. It takes excellence, y'all. Excellence is a part of diligence. You can't be diligent if you're doing a sloppy job, right? That's not diligence, that's neglectful. And we have to be careful to know that diligence requires excellence, okay? And it's not a fast process. It takes time. You have to learn your craft. You have to get to the place where it's wisdom, and you kind of do it like the back of your hand, but you don't treat it like the back of your hand and act like there's not big consequences in it. You move in diligence. You move in excellence. A righteous person hates lying, but the wicked is vile and disgraceful. Y'all, a righteous person would hate lying even if it benefits them. You know what I mean? Like, we shouldn't have to lie in order to get the result that we want. Look, one of my people, she awesome, right? God started ministering to her about something. And it was something that everybody did, right? Everybody did it. Not a big deal. It's just kind of how everything functioned. Well, God started ministering to her about it and saying that it wasn't right, saying it wasn't okay. So she has worked to not do this thing no more, and it has to do with her job, right? And it was lying to the system. So as she has done it, right, and she's come into this place where she's telling the truth, her work is literally better than it was before, and she's not breaking anymore. She's not breaking a sweat anymore. She's not working any harder, where technically she should be working harder because she's not cheating the system, right? She's not lying to the system. So she technically should be working harder, but she's not. And she's developing and bringing more results than she was when she was messing with the system. To us, that doesn't make any sense. Especially if you have one of those jobs that you know that there's a system in place, but you have to finagle the system a little bit in order to get the job done. Everybody that has a job like that, you know, in your mind, logically, this doesn't work. Doesn't matter how many employees have been there. Doesn't matter how many people have done that thing. You have to do these things, right? That's what we tell ourselves. And people, that's how we get trained. That's what happens, and blah, blah, blah. Well, she came into this place of excellence to not mess with the system, to not finagle and tell the full out truth. And now God has taken her to a place where she's producing more, and where it should be that she's working harder, she's not. See, this is the excellence of God that we're talking about. This is how we're supposed to function. And we never function that way if we never start walking that way, right? We're masters of justification. That's what we do. We try to justify everything that we do that's wrong. Well, everybody else is doing it. Well, there's no other way to do it. Whatever it is, we justify. She said, I've had enough. God's been bothering me about this. I don't want to be bothered about it anymore. I'm going to do it the way my Father says. And now she's generating results that are inconceivable. They're inconceivable results. Everybody would say, no, you have to do it this way. You have to be doing that way. And her conscience is clear. They can look at her paperwork. They can watch her work. She's doing it the right way. And God is giving her the increase because she's moving in that excellence, y'all. We have to start understanding that, man. We really do. The simple fact that she stopped lying, she stopped finagling the system, she started doing it God's way, which is the way of excellence, and she's producing more for the company that she works for than she was when she was finagling the system and making it easier on herself. But that's everybody in that place, right? But she's getting these results that are unfathomable to anybody that works there because she's doing it truthfully. Don't ever discount what happens when you walk in truth. Straight up. Righteousness protects him whose way is honest, but wickedness brings down the sinner. It does. It does. And a lot of the time, it's not even other outside sources. It's literally what the person is doing that they get ensnared in themselves. Like telling a lie. You get yourself into a lie. You tell somebody something, then you tell somebody else something, then you tell somebody else something. Now you're trapped in these lies and you have to keep it up. And then you mess around and you have those people in close proximity as it is. and all of a sudden you're telling the wrong lie to the wrong person, and you wind up getting caught. You're caught in your own snare. It's not anybody else's fault. But see, again, we go into justification mode. We start blaming everybody else. Well, if you wouldn't have asked all these questions, everything would be fine. But you had to ask all these questions. Man, how is it that person's fault when we're the ones that decided to lie? But you see, that's how the human mind works. That's how we work in our flesh. That's why we are not supposed to be that way anymore. Because if we had simply told the truth, if we had simply done what we were supposed to do, we wouldn't even be in the scenario in the first place. But as opposed to doing what's right, we would rather blame everybody else. And that's one of the problems we have when we are unable to deny ourselves, y'all. Like, straight up. The wickedness brings down the sinner. It does. Their own stuff brings them down. We have to ensure that we're not there, y'all. We have to ensure that we're walking in excellence, that we have a clear conscience, that we are above reproach in everything that we do, right? Gotta work it out, man. There are those who pretend they are rich, also those with great wealth who pretend they are poor. The rich man may have to ransom his life, but a poor man gets no threats. Sometimes we just got to live humbly, y'all. We don't have to flaunt out and let everybody know all the stuff that we got. And see, we live in a day and age that's literally what it's all about, right? Everybody on social media acting like they got everything together, acting like everything is good, acting like everything is perfect, all this, that, and the other. Cut off the social media, and all of a sudden everything isn't as good as it seems. But it's drawing the wrong kind of attention. You get the wrong kind of attention on you, right? I was actually watching this video. It was super weird, super crazy video, and I know it was a setup, right? But it was two people bickering and arguing about what should have happened because the person spent so much money on somebody in order to have this time of their life or whatever, right? But then the person was expecting something else, and it turned into this big push and pull on who was wrong, the person that made the person spend all this money, or the person that was expecting this action to happen because they spent all the money. In all honesty, both were wrong, right? Because why would we do that to anybody? Why are we out there trying to siphon people dry of whatever we think they have? And why are we trying to use what we have in order to manipulate people to give us what we want? It's not how it should be, right? This is the day and age we live in. And this is the type of stuff that we like. This is why I don't like reality TV. I don't like reality TV, man. Reality's ugly enough. I don't need to watch somebody else's misery in order to find entertainment. I'd rather watch me some kind of a butterfly kisses fairy tale dream type story to take my mind off of what I'm already facing in life, right? But see, we are in this place where we seem to think that our status, our stature, our wealth, our belongings, that's what shows how valuable we are, and that's wrong. And like this said, it puts you in all kinds of bad places when you be flaunting all your stuff everywhere, because then people start expecting to take some of your stuff or partake in the stuff, and when you don't, all of a sudden there's all these feuds, there's all this bad stuff, and then God forbid somebody decides to do something bad to you, and you ain't even got the ability to cover it because everything you was doing, you was selling wolf tickets, right? You was telling pork pies. You wasn't even telling the truth. You was fronting. But somebody that is able to walk humbly and do what needs to be done. Like, one of my favorite things is watching actors that just dress regular and walk down the street and everybody be making fun of them. Look how they dress. They're millionaires. Look how they dress. Well, why dress any other way? At least then it leaves people in a place like, is that... Nah, so-and-so wouldn't be dressed like that because they got money. They wouldn't be dressed like that. They wouldn't look like a hobo like that. But man, it just saved that person all kinds of asking, all kinds of interviews, all kinds of paparazzi in their face, all because they lived a humble life and they just walked out like a normal person and did what they did. They didn't have to be a celebrity right then. My brother Aaron, he said one of the most awesome things, man. Like, there are times that we have to be the rod of wonders, and then there's sometimes that we have to be the shepherd's staff, right? The rod of wonders, doing all these miracles, doing all this stuff, laying hands on people, doing all this miraculous stuff, and then there's times where we just got to be a regular shepherd's staff laid up against the wall that nobody looks at, right? Like, we have to learn that balance, y'all. And when it comes to wealth, when it comes to having some stuff, man, just be humble and walk through life. Don't show that stuff off, especially with how greedy people are right now, right? Don't give them a reason to zero in and focus in on you and have something happen. It's save yourself some stress, right? The light of the righteous shines joyfully, but the lamp of the wicked will be extinguished. It will. It will. And what's wild, right? When you really look at this. So the light of the righteous shines joyfully, but the lamp of the wicked will be extinguished. So here's the thing. Back in those days, they didn't just blow out the candles. You know why they didn't blow out the candles? Because the wicks were cheap. They didn't have the technology that we do now. So if you blew out a candle, you ran the risk of jacking up the wick, and it wouldn't shine no more inside of the lamp, right? If you messed up that wick, it would be hard to light, or you'd have to cut it back a little bit more, and then you're using up too much wick. So the way they did it, they smothered it. They smothered the flame. They suffocated it. Now, put that into that perspective, right? The light of the righteous shines joyfully, so the light of the righteous inside the lamp. Ooh, that's awesome. Yeah, it's great. Right, but the lamp of the wicked will be extinguished. When they extinguish it, suffocation. Don't put yourself there. Don't put yourself there. The Bible is very, very on point with how it says things, right? It's not just and it's out. It's literally suffocation. It's literally a struggle. It's literally trouble. Do not be the person that gets caught in the wickedness and there's trouble and your light's suffocated out. You see what I'm saying? Come on, y'all. Insolence produces only strife, but wisdom is found with those who take advice. Take advice. You don't have to necessarily go by it, but go ahead and let somebody give their 2 cents. That's okay. Now, if that person is terrible at giving 2 cents and they just want to be heard and they just like to talk, all right, I get it. But take advice, y'all. Like, even a foolish person, when God wants to, a foolish person can give somebody that believes that they have wisdom great advice. One of the people, man, I can't even tell you how many times an unbeliever has said something to me and I've been like, yo, you're right. My fault. I mean, if God used a donkey, right, to speak to Balaam, why can't he use an unbeliever to speak to somebody that's a believer? God does what he wants. So it's always good to take advice, especially if somebody knows what they're talking about. Now, if they've never been in your scenario, if they've never been in your situation and they're literally trying to tell you what to do, that's a little bit different, right? Like, you got somebody that's never even had a girlfriend or a boyfriend and they're trying to tell you all about your relationship and how you should act and this, that, and the other. You should probably not take that advice, right? But if somebody has some experience, if somebody's not being malicious, if somebody's not being a weirdo and they're just trying to give you advice, maybe you should take it. There's nothing wrong with it, right? It'll actually bring you further. Wealth gotten by worthless means dwindles away, but he who amasses it by hard work will increase it. Straight up. Straight up. We got to stop with these get rich schemes. Like, just do what you're supposed to do. Get a job, work hard at it, start a business, work hard at it. Whatever it is you got to do it, but do it in excellence. Don't think that you're going to just all of a sudden, boom, money, right? Like, even network marketing, right? You get people that say stuff about network marketing, and I'm going to tell you 100%, I'm not going to pitch them at network marketing to you, but I do believe in network marketing. I've had a couple of successful businesses. It was before my divorce. When I got divorced, I didn't want to do it no more, right? I didn't want to be out there like that anymore. But I will tell you that network marketing is not like that, and a lot of people seem to think that it's easy like that all the time. Nah, it takes hard work to get the business going. It takes hard work to have people buying product. It takes hard work to have people come to conventions and do what needs to be done to get them started, to get their own groups going. It takes hard work, like even in that. But it does generate a pretty nice income when you do it right? Like, whether it's your own business or whether you're working for somebody, always do it in excellence. Stop with trying to win the lottery. Stop with all the stuff. Like, please have a job in between. Like, if that's what you do, go ahead. But don't sit around and be doing absolutely nothing thinking that you're going to have the winning ticket and then you're going to get it. One of the saddest things ever, man, is like, I used to watch a show that was about lottery winners, and there was only one on that show that actually came up and like started a residual income for himself and for his kids. Out of like the 12 or 13 people that they showed, he was the only one. Everybody else just went by the wayside. All the money was gone. He was the only one. But why was he the only one? Because he invested. He did what was smart. He didn't just get the money and go and blow it and be like, we made it, right? Like, he literally made investments. He got people to counsel him on what to do, and he made residual income for his family. But everybody else on that show, like, just blew the money fast, and then they was just as broke, if not worse, than they were prior because they didn't do it right? So always make sure that you know the value of that hard-earned money that you make. When you do it in diligence, you do it in excellence, right? Hope deferred makes a heart sick, but desire fulfilled is a tree of life. It is, straight up. You ever wanted something so bad, and then you get it, like, you cherish it, right? It's low-key. It's what happened with the whole car situation for me. Like, the Kia Soul ain't nothing to really shake a stick at, right? But I love that car, and I take care of that car. I wash it all the time, make sure it stays shiny, vacuum it out, right? Like, I got the ministry stuff in there, but I try to keep everything right. I keep it nice. I keep it where when people get in, they're not going, yo, your car is something else, right? Like, they're able to get in, everything is cool. Like, I keep it nice. Why? Because it was a desire that was fulfilled. And man, I don't know if it'll happen again. I don't know. I'm going to just do like I would anything that God brings me. I'm going to take care of it, right? Because if it wasn't for God, I wouldn't even have it. Straight up. And that goes for everything. That goes for the camera I'm talking on right now. It goes for the monitor back there. It even goes for Deku sitting on the top of the monitor, right? The Oralex in the back. The screen that I'm looking at that's doing all this, the Mac that's taking care of it all. Like, it's all God's, man, and I will always take care of it because it is desires fulfilled to accomplish what he set me to accomplish. So I'm going to take care of it. I'm not just going to be all crazy with it and be over here eating soup and letting soup splash all over the place and not keeping my stuff right and in working order, right? Understanding when a desire is fulfilled, man, like it's one of those things that you know if you really appreciate it or not by how you treat the thing that God graced you with, right? So come on, man. Let's start doing this the right way and not like some spoiled brat kids, right? The teaching of a wise man is a fountain of life, enabling one to avoid deadly traps. Straight up. Listen to the people that have been through what you're going through. They're probably going to teach you something so you don't bump your head as much as they did. Good common sense produces grace, but the way of the treacherous is rough. All the time. All the time. Good common sense produces grace. Why? Because you're doing what God instructed you to do, so you're going to walk right into his graces. You're going to walk right into the things that he has planned that be on that path. But if you don't do that, right, and you do what you want, you're going to have a hard time because that road is not tilled with the presence of God. You're going to have a harder time. Every cautious person acts with knowledge, but a fool parades his folly. A lot of the time they do. Like, you think about people that are unfaithful, right? People that are unfaithful, they tend to let people know. Very few of them keep their mouth shut. They let their best friend know. They let these people know. They let that people know. And then eventually somebody winds up getting mad, and then boom, all the stuff comes out because they need to have their 2 cents in it. And let me take you down a peg type mentality, right? See, the treacherous will always hurt the treacherous. That's what happens. It's crazy, man. It's crazy that would happen because you would think that the treacherous would help one another. No, the treacherous hurt the treacherous, right? They just sit there and beat one another up. What's crazy too, you can kind of see it in the body. People that claim to be a part of the body and then they'll sit there and attack other people. That's why the body has something that looks like HIV, right? Like a hyperimmune virus deficiency. Something is wrong in the body. Why? Because it's always attacking itself. Y'all, that's treacherous type behavior. It's not how we're supposed to be. We address some things. We talk about things. We don't just sweep things under the rug. We don't sit there and attack somebody, especially if we had a conversation with them and we all on some understanding. We all on the same page, whatever. We leave. We don't go then and then start causing all kinds of ruckus everywhere else. It's some wild stuff. The treacherous will always attack the treacherous. We have to be careful of that, man. Let's not put ourselves in a rough place because we're moving not in excellence. You know what I mean? Always stay in the place of excellence. Every cautious person acts with knowledge, but a fool parades his folly. My bad, I just read the same thing again. But yeah, even in that, right? The treacherous, they will parade their folly. They will talk about it. They will say what they've done. They will tell somebody, and then somebody will tell somebody or whatever. They get mad, right? It happens. Let's be very careful. A wicked messenger falls into evil, but a faithful envoy brings healing. Straight up. A faithful envoy. A faithful messenger, a faithful person to God will always bring healing. Now, that healing may look a little bit different than we think because there may be kind of a hard word coming first, right? But then there's an ice pack right afterwards. One of the things that Brian always tells me, especially because of the things that I get, he's like, man, I hope you got an ice pack with that. And I'm like, yeah, I do. I might, a little bit. Might be smaller than what most people want, but it is what it is. It's how it goes. Sometimes healing takes a breaking, right? I remember I had to get nasal surgery done because all my back and forth from the Philippines to here jacked up my whole stuff, right? So I literally had to break my nose and drill out my stuff in order to get everything working right. right? I don't know if people in sports, like you get something that heals wrong or whatever, and you don't go to the hospital. Y'all know well and full, sometimes it takes the re-break, right? Sometimes it takes a breaking in order to get the proper healing. It happens. Again, healing doesn't always look the way that we think it will. You know what I mean? Nothing with God looks the way that we think it will sometimes. And sometimes people don't want to be broken in order to get that healing. And y'all, it has to happen sometimes. You know what I mean? A faithful envoy will bring healing. A faithful messenger of God will bring healing. Sometimes it just doesn't look the way that we want it to. Poverty and shame are for him who won't be taught, but he who heeds reproof will be honored. Straight up. Again, discipline, y'all. Discipline. Nobody's above reproach, but we should be walking in an excellence, right? In a way that we do not get questioned for stupid stuff. But that doesn't mean that we don't get told about ourselves when we mess up. Everybody messes up. I mess up. Your favorite pastor messes up. Your favorite street evangelist messes up. Your favorite praise and worship leader messes up. We all mess up. None of us are above reproach when it comes to that. But we should be walking in an excellence that, if anything, be like, man, maybe you need to not be so boastful about the above reproach that you walk in. Everybody can be corrected. And when that correction comes, we should consider it an honor, because God's protecting us from ourselves again. God is showing us the path again. And we should consider it an honor, because he didn't just shut up and let it continue going. Desire fulfilled is sweet to the soul, but turning away from evil is abhorrent to fools. He who walks with the wise will become wise, but the companion of fools will suffer. Look, it is abhorrent to fools to walk away from the path of foolishness. Y'all need to understand, man, like, I love my people. But every time I tried to quit drinking, man, like, there would be people that would be like, why would you quit drinking? Like, y'all, it's a problem for me to be drinking. I'm just saying. Anybody that knew me from my past, they will tell you I was a problem when I was drinking. A little bit too friendly and very borderline angry. Like, it was such a fine line of my anger tipping over that I'd be smiling when I look in one direction, look at another one, snap off, and something bad had happened. Right? And then on top of that, there was times that I was too friendly. Drinking was a problem for me. But yet and still, when I needed to walk away from it, the 3 times that I tried before I gave it to God, like, even my people, some of my closest people would be like, why are you gonna quit drinking? Why not? Why would you do that? And I praise God that I still had people that was like, man, yeah, maybe you need to, right? Like, some of my people that are still people now, whether they're believers or not, were the ones that were like, nah, this dude need to stop. Like, you need to stop trying to convince him to drink, and you need to tell him he don't need to drink no more, right? Like, it is abhorrent to the foolish to walk away from foolery. I remember when I said I was coming to Christ, like, people, man, why would you do that? Like, that's the softest thing I've ever heard, right? They would get all mad about it. Like I said, I have that person that we was consider family that talked to somebody else consider family that he's just a Bible thumper. Like, my dude's like, what are you talking about? He ain't never once Bible thumped me. Like, if you get on his live feed, he might be, because he's talking to believers, so of course he's going to teach a lesson. But when it comes to me, I'm not a believer, but I know that there's something following this dude, and I know that my life would get better if I could walk that path. And he has never made me feel any other way than to know that there is something different than what I'm doing. So what do you mean a Bible thumper? You mad because he's trying to pull everybody away from that lifestyle that we came from? And you don't like it, so now you're going to talk bad about him to everybody else. See, it's foolishness. It's abhorrent to the foolish to walk away from foolishness. Don't get caught up in that. Foolishness is foolishness, and foolishness will have you hitting your head. Be very careful of the circles that you get involved with that seem to think that they can take the name of God in vain and hurt people, and then when you be like, woo, I don't want nothing to do with that, and all of a sudden they turn around and start saying something to you. That's on the in the body side, but in the worldly side, like in the street side, like, we all know that. A lot of us that came out of that would know that a lot of the time people have a hard time with that. But what's crazy is people in the street, like, they get to a certain place and they're like, yo, good on you for doing that. That was probably one of the biggest blessings I ever got. Somebody that was in the street, still in the street in my world, that literally approached me like 10 years afterwards talking about I was wrong and I'm sorry. The streets need that. We out here killing each other for no reason. The streets need that. They need a better way. And thank you for being brave enough to do that. And I'm sorry for ever questioning you. that graced my soul, man. I never thought I was going to hear that from that person. And to this day, I think about it all the time. I wish me and him could see eye to eye enough that we could spend some more time together, but we kind of can't. It's weird. Like, things kind of got weird, but you know what I mean? I pray that God softens his heart and God bless him and that things go well, right? Be very careful, y'all. But don't get caught in that foolishness that has people staying in the same place. Evil pursues sinners, but prosperity will reward the righteous. A good man leaves an inheritance to his grandchildren, but the wealth of the sinner is stored up for the righteous. I have seen this happen too. We'll get into that when we come back to that, because we're going to come back to that a couple of times. On the last time, I'll get to that. The fields of the poor may yield much food, but some are swept away because of injustice. Man, some are swept away because of injustice, and that's the... There is a lot of the time, y'all, and I'm going to just be 100% honest. A lot of the time, that's how we move. We move in injustice, and we try to say it's justice. No, we move in injustice. And it shouldn't be that way. Us, as people that walk with God, we should not move in injustice. We should move in excellence. We should move in righteousness. And we should move in the justice that says, ooh, I was done wrong, but I did this person wrong first. Let me take care of that, and then I'll have this discussion with you, right? That's justice, y'all. Justice is fully encapsulating of everything that has happened in the scenario. If it's theft, right, and you want justice for theft, you better pay back the theft that you did to somebody else. If it's destruction of character, and you want them to restore your character, you better restore the person's character that you destroyed before. And it doesn't matter if somebody heard about it, doesn't matter if anybody knows about it. Justice includes integrity, right? A lot of us move in injustice, and then we wonder why we continue to be hurt, why we continue to feel like we're not transformed, why we continue to feel like we are lacking. It's because a lot of us move in injustice because we didn't do that single step of self-denial. A single step of self-denial. Like I said, man, it is a big step. It's a huge step. It's a step that, again, I've been walking in it for 8 years and I still don't have it all figured out, right? Denial of self is one of the things that darn near every person that says that they follow Christ has missed, and they never take care of it. And this is why people are so uneasy and wavering so easily, walking away from Christ and coming back, walking away from Christ and coming back, even in their actions. Oh no, I'm with Christ, but then doing something that's not a follower of Christ's thing right after saying that they follow Christ. And it starts with the self-denial. That's why it's the first step. It is a very, very big subject, y'all, that we seem to think is very small. Like I even told somebody today that's not having to have the final say in an argument is self-denial, right? Like that's like a edge cuticle nail of self-denial. Like self-denial is a very, very, very big picture that a lot of people don't understand. But that's why there's so many people that have trouble with self-denial. Paul is probably one of the biggest ambassadors of self-denial ever. That dude got smashed in the face by people that sent him out to kill Christians. Got spat and punched in the face by those same people that were afraid to go out and do what he did. And he didn't do a thing. That's self-denial. Knowing full well that these people paid you to go and kill people, and when you come back to them, they are now spitting on you and punching you in the face. The same people that was scared to do what you were doing, and now they spit and punch you in the face. That's self-denial that I have. Paul is an ambassador of self-denial, man. Like when you really read into Paul's story and the many things that he went through, self-denial to its fullest. Like even in when he would talk to God and ask God, like even in that, like the thorn in his side, he wanted it removed. Y'all, he didn't want to deal with it. Like you would think that in that Paul would be like, man, I've done all this stuff, I can have this. Nope. Self-denial. Paul was like, no, I don't even want to risk anything taking me out of your presence. Right? See, we live in a day and age that we try to find as many things as we can and still be in God's presence. Paul looked for everything that could remove him from God's presence and wanted it gone. That's the difference from that generation to this one. We try to find everything we can that we can do, the rules we can bend, the things that we can, and then we get to stay in God's presence. Where back then it was like, will this remove me out of God's presence? Yes, then I don't want it. All these subjects that we talk about, there are some that are black and white, but then there are some gray area things. And the gray area things, y'all, wind up becoming something of pride, because we're like, we can do this and we're still in the presence of God. Don't you do that or you're not in the presence of God. And it starts this whole thing. Like, I'm going to touch this one just a smidge. Tattoos, right? I don't care. I'm going to tell you right now, I don't care. I'm a part of a ministry that doesn't do tattoos, so I don't do tattoos. Like, I've got my tattoos, but I'm not getting any more because I'm a part of a ministry that doesn't do tattoos. That would be wild if I turned around and went and got a tattoo when I know my ministry doesn't do tattoos, right? But at the core of it all, I'm not going to tell somebody that they're going to go to hell over a tattoo, right? However, when you're not going to go to hell over a tattoo comes to you're going to go to hell over a tattoo, and then it's well, tell me about scripture to show me. Well, tell me scripture that doesn't, or that shows that you won't. And it just starts into this argument, right? Nobody can deny themselves enough to back away from the conversation and be like, let's just leave it alone. Everybody wants to bark and yell and get mad. Now we've got a different problem on our hands. It's called pride. It's the absence of self-denial because somebody has to be right. Now there's that issue. And everybody thinks it's the tattoo issue. No, it's the pride. So if you have the conviction that you're not going to get a tattoo, don't get a tattoo. If you feel like I can still get tattooed, don't be that weirdo that's out there showing it all off and being like, hey, look at this, look at this, look at this, right? Like, it's literally a pride thing. It's not even about the tattoo anymore. It's about pride and the fact that you can't deny yourself on both sides. On both sides. For me, I'm like, I don't get them. Well, but why? I don't get them. Have an explanation. I don't need to explain to you. I don't get them. Right? And people will start to get amped up. They'll start to get all crazy. And then they're the foolish looking one because they're amped up and angry. I don't get tattoos. Why is it that big of a deal? So now you're trying to force it on me? Again, there's another problem. Right? Like, we really have to start understanding this stuff, y'all. We got to be very, very careful when it comes to those types of things. A lot of the time, it's because of our inability to deny ourselves. That's why we find ourselves in these situations and predicaments all the time. Because we can't just simply deny ourselves. We can't just be like, all right, I hear you, whatever. We don't agree. It's all right. Walk away. There is such a thing as agreeing to disagree, and that's absolutely fine. It's what happened between Paul and Peter. It's what happened between Barnabas and Paul. They agreed to disagree. Did they part ways? Yeah, they parted ways. It is what it is. But at the end of it all, they came back together, right? It's okay to agree to disagree. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But we live in a time that somebody has to be right and somebody has to be wrong. And man, it better show, right? It's wrong. We need to stop it. Straight up. He who fails to use a stick hates his son, but he who loves him is careful to discipline him. Yeah. And there's a difference between spanking somebody on the backside and molly-whopping the dog crap out of them. There's a difference in that. Like, there was one time, and my kids give me a hard time for it too. My youngest son got out of a whooping one time because he made me laugh. What would that have looked like if I would have spanked my son with a big old smile on my face and laughing? That'd been some weirdo stuff, man, right? He made me laugh. He got out of a spanking. He got out of it. We don't mollywop our children, man. That's no kind of love. But the crazy part is that I know that there are people out there that hurt so much inside that they do be mollywopping their kids because they're getting rid of the hurt that they feel and trying to pass it on to their children. Guess what that is? It's a generational curse, y'all. It's a generational curse. Have self-control. Look, but he who loves him is careful to discipline him, right? Be careful to discipline your kids. Be careful to. Doesn't mean just go out there and mollywop them. Be careful to. Is it really to teach them a lesson, or is it because you had a bad day? Is it really because you don't want your child to hurt themselves, or is it because you feel embarrassed in front of your friends? There's a difference in that. If it's to prevent your child from hurting themselves, from burning themselves on a stove, from hitting their head on something, man, I will be the first one to linebacker tackle you to prevent you from sticking your head on a stove and burning your whole hair off, right? I'll be the first one to do that. But if I'm doing it because I feel like you deserve it and this is what you get and let me knock you down a peg, I probably shouldn't be doing that. There is a different heart posture for these types of things. If you cannot control yourself when you're disciplining your kids, maybe you don't need to. If it turns into you got it when you were little, so now your child's going to get it too, and I'm going to take every strap, every stripe that my dad took off of me, and I'm going to put it on my child, maybe you shouldn't be disciplining your kids. Because discipline is about correcting their past so they don't hurt themselves, just like it is with God. We have to remember that, man. We have to remember that. And it's bad, y'all. It's bad when you use the Bible to justify whooping on your kids. And it's not to teach them a lesson. It's to make you feel better. That's not what discipline is for. God is not disciplining us so that he feels better. God is God. God is God. God's discipline is to benefit us. If we're disciplining our kids, it better be to benefit our kids. Teaching them not to do certain things. Making sure they don't ever go and steal something from somebody because they could wind up getting shot over it type thing, right? Like the heart posture, y'all, where is it at? And you have to be able to be man or woman enough to say, I am not doing this for the benefit of my child. I'm doing it because I hurt. And we need to back away from that. 9 times out of 10, a generational curse is passed on to the next generation because parents take out past hurts, past pains, past disappointments, and live vicariously through their children. It's not how it's supposed to be. Our children are supposed to learn, grow, and walk in the way that God called them to. Not the way that we call them to. They're God's. We have to remember that. The righteous person eats his fill, but the belly of the wicked is empty. Yep. We'll get into that one a little bit later too, because there's another one that goes in a little bit deeper. Look, man, I know that one was a little bit heavy. That one was a little bit like, yo, that's crazy, especially because we got into the discipline thing, right? But y'all, this is a reality. This is something that we have to face. This is a part of this Christian walk. These Proverbs literally show us little things that we can do to start shifting our lives, and if we apply them to our lives and we walk in the excellence of them, we will watch a difference in our lives. Y'all, I am an advocate for disciplining kids. I'm an advocate for spankings. Spankings don't bother me, but mollywopping your child all in the head and in the eye and in the arm and throwing them down, I'm not an advocate for that. That shows a parent that's literally looking to hurt their child. Again, if you're spanking your child, it's to prevent them from hurting themselves. It's to teach them the lesson like, hey, don't do that no more. Because we know if you have kids, you know, sometimes you be telling your child, hey, don't do that. Hey, don't do that. And then all of a sudden they got the fork and they about to stick it in the wall, right? You don't let them stick it in the wall and risk losing your child because you thought that the natural consequence of them sticking a fork into a voltage of a wall was the best route to go, not knowing what could possibly happen. Or would it be better to take the fork, spank their booty, and say, hey, don't do that, man. You're going to hurt yourself, right? When we come into that place, we need to be very self-denied and we need to be very honest with ourselves. I've told you guys many times on this feed, I ruled my kids' lives with an iron fist, and it was the wrong way. However, there was never any doubt that I love my kids. And everything that I said I would do, I followed through with. And by the age of like 13, 14, I wasn't even really tripping on my kids. I didn't really even raise my voice at them anymore after that. Literally just do life now. You've learned the lessons that you need to learn. Now do life, and I hope you do it well, right? I wish I could raise my kids now with the way I am now, but it wasn't in the cards. And maybe I'm being a little selfish, but I like the time of me and my wife being empty nesters, right? I'm only 42, and me and my wife are empty nesters. I think it's great. I think it's awesome. and I don't plan on having any more kids, right? We got everybody else's kids, you know what I mean, brothers and sisters that bring kids and, you know, call me Grandpa Bobby, things like that. Cool with that because they can go home, right? But I do wish I could have raised my kids with how I am now as opposed to how I was, right? But it wasn't in the cards. But my kids turned out fairly well. I'm proud of all my kids, right? Straight up, like I love all my kids a lot. Just make sure that you're doing it right. Don't be the one that passes on generational curses or continues generational curses because you feel that this is the time for you to pay back what happened to you when it's not even to the person that did it to you. We got to come into this place of recovery as Christian people, as followers of Christ, as messianic people, right? We have to come into this place of healing to ensure that we don't pass the hurt on to the next generation. It's really that time, y'all. Let's get up there. Let's be true men and women of God. Let's get rid of our hurt and not pass it on to our children that we have. Let's make sure that our children have the fair shake to walk in the excellence that God called them in, to be raised properly by fully healed parents that understand that the child is not there for them to take out all the frustration that they had taken out on them, but to show them the right way, show them the way of the path that will not devour them, show them the way to the path of the Father, and walk with them and encourage them to go into that place. I love you guys to life in the mighty name of Jesus Christ. Woo!
Please forgive my ignorance. Never wanted this. Should have been oblivious and kept my innocence. Father, we don't know. We don't know what we doing. Father, we don't know. We don't know what we doing. Lord, please forgive my ignorance. Never wanted this. Should have been oblivious and kept my innocence. Father, we don't know. We don't know what we doing. Father, we don't know. We don't know what we doing. Lord, we don't know what it is we do. This misery looks so perfect.